I've always wondered why everyone gets so stoked about Crysis. Especially nowadays, there's so many videos popping up all over YouTube in the last couple years about how Crysis has lost its identity, and every video I watch, it's some guy putting on his rose-tinted glasses, and he's all like, "Oh, what happened to Crysis over the years? It's gone so downhill. Crysis 2 and 3 were so consolized and linear and boring, but oh my god, the first Crysis was amazing and special and genre-transcending. I get a massive hard-on the size of the Paris gun just thinking about it." Yeah. I'll bet those fanboys haven't played it in at least a decade, and even back then their computers could only run it on low settings, but hey, they know their nostalgia still holds up just as well as it did back then. To everyone who made a video like that, allow me to get your head out of the interstellar clouds and back down to Earth where it belongs, and while I'm at it, no more reefer. Holy shit, you guys need to lay off this stuff. Crysis is nothing special. Stop putting it up on a fucking pedestal and treating it like it's Jesus Christ reincarnated in a disc, because it's not. It's a disappointing and very underwhelming game, even when you don't compare it to what it was originally sized up to be. You see, back in the day, long before Halo 3 red-pilled me 6 ways from Sunday, I had the misfortune of discovering Crysis and reading some articles which promised nothing short of bringing the Ark of the Covenant back into the physical realm, which I believed, because I also watched a video that was shown at E3 2006, which you're seeing right now, that fell very much in line with what these articles talked about and showed a very different version of Crysis. I'm going to go over some parts of these articles in this review because they need to be talked about. Almost nobody today knows what the original vision of the first Crysis was, and that's why even though I'm going to go over parts of these articles, I encourage all of you to read them in detail and watch the E3 video, especially the Crysis 1 fucktards. They'll help you and change your life for the better. And in case any of you need help finding them, all the links are in the description. But you probably already knew that. But anyways, Crysis is one of those games where you fire it up and you go, ooh, pretty graphics, and then you get to actually playing the game and you're like, wait a minute, that's it? And we're gonna start with the story, because these 2 articles that I read back in 2006, the ones that formed my expectations of this game, one of them dealt with the story. Now look, the story that Crysis wound up getting wasn't bad. For the most part, it was just there, but I liked how certain pieces of the story ended up developing. It was just what Crytek originally intended to do with it. And one of the articles here, called Building a New Kind of First-Person Shooter, had they delivered this, it would have been fucking amazing. Here's a little bit of that article. Crysis is a game that will forgive failure, so you don't have to worry about being perfect every time. For example, you'll battle along other special forces who are part of your team. Each of these guys may have an important role in the game, but if they get in a bad situation and you can't save them, they can be killed off before they can perform that role. In most games, this would require you to reload the most recent save point and try to get the rescue right, but in Crysis you'll be able to proceed with the story anyways. The later parts of the game might turn out to be a bit more difficult, but you'll still be able to complete the game without them. And then the next part talks about how you eventually ally with the North Koreans, and you get a VTOL, and you can save this North Korean squad, and get a Gauss rifle early on in the game. Now, out of everything I just read, how much of that is in the final game? Well, you get a VTOL for one level, and that's it. All you can do with it is fly back to an aircraft carrier. You can't get out, can't land it, do any fancy stuff like this article talked about. Nothing. Sure, there's a convoy and a couple bases you can help out, but there's no benefit or penalty if you choose to help them or not. Yeah, building a new kind of first-person shooter, my ass. The story never changes. You can't do anything to alter it even slightly. And that bleeds over into the level design, because if you want to build a new kind of shooter, you need to build a new kind of level that's designed to work with a story that can be molded like this article talked about. But as you might have guessed by now, there's nothing like that here. The story in Crysis is about as standard fare as it can get, just like the design of the levels are. Every level in Crysis is nothing more than go from point A to point B with an optional point C. And if you don't go to point C, that's okay, because whatever trivial piece of info you missed will be told to you 10 minutes down the line. And this ties into my biggest fucking gripe I have with the fanatical community surrounding this game. They all like to defend Crysis as being an open world game. Guys, allow me to lay down some truth for you. Crysis is not an open world game. It's the farthest goddamn thing from open world. Sure, it looks like it's open world, but that doesn't mean it is. Just like when you have a car that looks fast, that doesn't make it fast. Crysis is a hallway shooter. It's got very wide hallways, but they're still hallways. This level that I'm playing right now, Contact, it's the first level in the game, and once I beat this level, I can never go back to this area again. If Crysis was open world, then there wouldn't be any loading times in between levels. In fact, there wouldn't even be levels in a linear loading fashion like there are. And I'd be able to go back to areas I already visited, maybe even with some changes. Like, once the aliens wake up, maybe you'd see North Koreans fighting the aliens, or maybe the aliens would have taken over the area, and you'd only be fighting them. But there's nothing like that. And you know what? Lots of games have this level design, including some of my favorites, but they also have other things going for it that make them interesting or remarkable. For example, their gameplay. Which, while we're on the subject, how's the gameplay here? We might salvage something out of this mess if the gameplay is good, right? Oh, we definitely could, but the gameplay's not good. Never mind the other article I linked to, which tells you how once you get into the frozen areas, the environment is a lot more brittle, and it shatters really easily, which makes it a lot harder to sneak around the aliens, because you can't sneak around them in this game, or how some of your gear won't work because it's too cold out, so you're gonna have to adapt. Yeah, forget any of that, because, again, even if you don't take any of that pre-release hype into account, the gameplay in Crysis is infuriatingly disappointing. And it all starts with the nanosuit. This thing is a nearly useless piece of shit. You want to do something awesome like use speed to run over to this wall, then use strength to jump over it, and then cloak yourself to hide and start picking people off one by one? Well, too bad, because this thing runs out of juice faster than an iPhone battery when playing Mortal Kombat, which kills any opportunity to do anything creative. Look at how quickly this thing runs out of power. 3 seconds. 3 whole seconds. Less than that, actually. Wow, what a great suit of armor. Where can I get one? It also doesn't help that Nomad moves like he's taking a Sunday morning walk, like he's vacationing on the island or something, so I constantly had to leave the suit on speed mode if I wanted to get anywhere in a timely fashion, which left me completely exposed to gunfire. The cloak isn't very useful either. It doesn't run out as quickly as the speed function, but it only lasts about 10 seconds when you're moving normally, and even less when you're sprinting. It doesn't drain nearly as quickly when you belly crawl, but I noticed that the distance you can cover before the cloak runs out was the same, regardless of how you moved. It stays on for a couple minutes when you're standing still and doing absolutely nothing, but as soon as you fire your gun, the cloak disables and your energy goes down to almost 0. So the only way you can make any real use out of it is to sneak around, then go prone, go back to armor mode, wait for your energy to recharge, sneak around some more, rinse and repeat until you find a bad guy, then quickly go back to armor mode, shoot the bad guy, and go back to cloak mode. Does that sound irritating? Yeah, that's because it is. Now normally it wouldn't be so bad if you had a good control setup, but this is Crysis we're talking about. And to switch back and forth between modes, you have to hold down the V key and use your mouse to select what mode you want. And it's not like you can just move your cursor over whatever mode you want. No! You have to move the mouse around until whatever mode you want gets highlighted. And here's another fun fact. When I had to do this in a pinch, I kept hitting the X button, which kept setting my rifle back to single shot mode. I guess I should be thankful you can remap the controls. One of the few good things I can say about this game. As far as armor and strength mode are concerned, armor mode is passive and strength mode is useless for the most part, aside of knocking down buildings in the early levels, but it does help stabilize the recoil of your guns to the point where every bullet you fire will hit pretty much the same spot every time no matter what fire mode you use. And it even lasts for a full clip before your energy gets depleted. So if you're going for a stealth approach, it's actually pretty useful for a change. One thing I also like is that both your health and energy have separate bars even though they both regenerate. This is something neither of the sequels have. They have energy bars but not health bars, and instead use that bloody screen when you're almost dead thing, which I think is fucking stupid. And if you're wondering what the point is to having a health bar if your health magically regenerates, it's for a little bit of precision so you can tell when you're almost dead and don't have to take a wild guess as to how much health you have left. This is something I think more games should use. Even still, the couple of good things I just talked about can't save the game from the fact that the nanosuit is pretty much fucking useless, because it almost always runs out of energy way too fast. Sure, it can recharge fairly quickly, but so can the suits in Crysis 2 and 3, and they don't run out of power in 2 seconds. So, with the nanosuit being almost useless, I was stuck using a silenced assault rifle for most of the game. And a North Korean one, since I couldn't find any ammo for the fucking gun the game started me with. Look, I get it. It's a different playstyle from 2 and 3, more along the lines of Far Cry Instinct's Predator. It's designed to make you feel more like a hunter rather than a destroyer, but pro tip for every game developer and aspiring developer out there, if that's the case, then don't ship an opening intro with the game itself that fools you into thinking you're this unstoppable juggernaut. You guys ever think about it that way? Yeah, probably not. And it's not like the guns or enemies you fight can save this game, because they're nothing to write home about either. You got your standard set of guns, the attachment modules make zero to no fucking difference, you fight North Koreans for the most part, and the aliens don't do anything except run at you like a moron or sit there out in the open shooting at you, even in the zero gravity area. Hell, the alien gun you get for like 2 stinking levels that shoots ice crystals or something, yeah, it looks cool, but it doesn't do anything different from any other gun in the game. There's nothing unique about it. And let's talk about the graphics, because my god, those fucking fanboys. They always use graphics as a defense for this fucking game. Yeah, the game looks amazing. There's no denying that. Even by 2018 standards, this game still looks fucking awesome. It could easily compete with the best looking games made so far. And one thing I really like is that the shadows aren't overly dark like they are in just about every fucking game that gets released today. Even Crysis 3 is guilty of this. It's like, Jesus, is it possible to see in the corner without a flashlight, thank you? That's one thing I always loved about this game, is that it never did that. The lighting system here is fucking brilliant, and no other game so far that I know of has been able to replicate this. It's just too bad it doesn't run nearly as good as it looks. Never mind the godlike system requirements, where even if you had the absolute bleeding edge in computer tech back in 2007, you still couldn't play it on its highest settings. Even with my rig today that can run Crysis 3 maxed out no problem, it still can't run the first game because it's coded like shit. It was built during a time where quad cores weren't a thing, and Crytek thought at the time that the market would stick to 2 cores and keep upgrading the clock speed from there. So they thought there would be things like 8 GHz dual cores or something like that. So as a result, the game runs terribly. I can't get a smooth 60 frames unless I turn off VSync and anti-aliasing. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, Crytek, the least you could have done is supported the game over the years instead of throwing it out the window not even a year after you fucking released it. Or better yet, why not give us the source code or some kind of development kit? Because I know you haven't written an update for this game since 2008. So yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, it's not all bad. We got mod support, which is always a good thing, and people still make mods for this game, some of which I might even review in the future. And not only that, but there is a version of Crysis that isn't a total piece of shit. You see, back in 2010 when Crysis 2 got released, an astonishingly rare case of common sense happened. Crytek not only learned from their mistakes, but fixed all the problems with the nanosuit. Now, Crysis 2 has a truckload of problems by itself, but at the very least, the nanosuit doesn't run out of power in 3 seconds, and we finally got to be the juggernaut the trailers always made the nanosuit out to be. And I know what you're thinking, okay, how does this relate to the first game again? Well, around mid-2011, the first Crysis got released on consoles. And the best way I can describe this version is take Crysis 2's gameplay and put it in the first game. This version is better in every way, shape, and form. Except for the frame rate, it's a piece of fucking shit. But that does not make Crysis on the consoles an amazing game. It doesn't even make it great. Yeah, I said it's better than the computer version, but look what it's up against. But on the other hand, if I said I didn't have fun with it, I'd be lying. Yeah, kids, This is one of those Blood Moon level rare occasions where the console version is better than the computer version. And the best part is that as of October 2018, the entire trilogy is compatible on the VCR, and if you have the X model, the frame rate is considerably better. It's a steady 30 frames almost the entire time. Holy shit! We finally got a version of Crysis that plays and runs well. Sort of. Wow, that only took 11 goddamn years. What's it gonna take, another 20 before we finally get the fucking source code so we can fix the computer version too? On the other models though, it runs about the same as the 360. Now you should only play it on PS3 if you have literally no other option. The resolution is much lower to the point where I could see the individual pixels, and the frame rate runs at an average of about 5 frames slower. And considering that on anything but the Xbox One X, Crysis struggles to hit even 24 frames a second, that's a hell of a difference. Yeah kids, this is Crysis. We were promised an ever-changing story on a massive island, with action bubbles all over the place, partnered up with a suit of armor unlike anything we had seen before that would have treated us to a fantastic power fantasy, and we got a by-the-numbers hallway shooter with legalized cheats instead. Now I'm not going to put the blame 100% on Crytek, kinda hard to do when EA is involved. Maybe they should have stayed with Ubisoft because this was a time when they were still worth spitting on. But then again, maybe I should blame Crytek because Crysis 2 and 3 were so damn good. I don't know who to blame, but until some straight fucking answers emerge as to why this version of Crysis doesn't exist, the one that was supposed to ship in the winter of 2006, nobody's innocent here. Maybe I'll review the sequels or even some mods for this game in the future, but as it stands right now, is Crysis worth playing? Not really. At best, it's a painfully average game. Neither version is worth going out of your way to play, and even if you took the best parts from both versions, put them together, and made it run well, there would still be plenty of better options out there. Crysis was a maximum disappointment, pun intended. It's a prime example of style over substance, and the best part is that Crytek got away with it. So many suckers back then spent ridiculous amounts of money so their computers could meet the absurdly high requirements, and to this very day, it's still revered among so many people like it's Jesus Christ reincarnated in a disc, while the much better sequels are remembered as nothing more than consolized trash. And this entire legacy is due to nothing more than the fact that the first game looked pretty. Alright kids, thanks for watching. If you're already subbed to the channel or are about to, be sure to hit the bell so you get notified when I post a video, hit the like button, and give me some feedback. I don't care if it's good or bad.